When hope is gone, undo this lock and send me forth on a moonlit walk. Release restraint level 0. Hey kids, wanna see a dead body?
Hi guys, this is the Void of the Ravenclaw. Welcome back to another fanfiction story. If you like this type of content, smash the like button and subscribe for future videos and updates that I do post on my community tab frequently. If you want to access to any of my early content, check out the Discord. This is the bargain between an evil god and a villain, part 8. Let's continue where our last left off in our story. After they broke contact with Lulu Midoriya, Izuku's aunt, Izuku looked around the large area of the inside of the water tower that was made into a studio apartment to see if he could find anything useful. Izumi did the same thing, looking around. So what's the plan, Izu? That's a good question. This place doesn't have any windows, so I'm going to have to go outside to see if we're still being hunted. One moment, please. Izuku popped his head out of the metal door. When he fully stepped out, stand right across from the railing of the water tower, he sees several stalkers and normal zombies traveling in all directions. Persistent little fuckers. He slowly walked back inside and closed the door quietly. As he slowly closed the door quietly to make sure none of the zombies could hear the noise from the door shutting, we're going to have to wait for a little bit. Or make a distraction. They're still in the area, still actively hunting us. They're way too spread out. If we left now, we would get swarmed. That's just fucking dandy. Izumi decided to take a look for herself. As she quietly left through the metal door, once she got a good view of the situation, she quietly walked back inside. Yeah, you're right. It seems like those stalker numbers are only increasing. Dealing with one or two of those stalkers is a pain in the ass, but dealing with a whole pack of them, I would rather not experience that. Izu. What about that thing you did with those floating animal skulls? Ah, you mean my blaster skulls. I could probably shoot multiple beams of energy in the same amount of power, what I did in the basement of the building earlier, but that would drain me quite fast. Every size of my floating skulls I create or summon takes a portion of my stamina. That's my drawback for my quirk. I'm surprised you're willingly to telling me your weakness. Normally I would keep it to myself, but without telling you my limitations, and considering we're working together for this, it's necessary for me to reveal some of my information on how my quirk operates. Clever little bastard. You're not telling me everything. Smart. Out of curiosity, what size of those blaster skulls you summon in that basement. Medium size. The larger ones take a lot more out of me. I could probably do maybe 4 or 5 full blasts with one of the larger ones. And the smaller versions of my skulls are used for non-combat, and I won't be revealing that information. Fair enough. I have a sinking suspicion that the shit you can do with your quirk hasn't been registered fully. Oh, I suppose I might have left a few details when I have to go into my review of my quirk every 4 to 5 years. Izuku and Izumi laid low for a while. They eventually left the water tower, noticing there's fewer zombies, no sign of the stalkers in sight. As they begin to climb down the metal ladder of the bell of the water tower, and open the gate as they slowly close the gate on their way out, as they proceed to go into a random direction, going further into the city. It's quiet. Too quiet. They were both on high alert, with their weapons in their hands. Izumi, wielding her bone katana that Izuku made for her earlier, and Izuku, on the other hand, is wielding a bone sword that he made himself. The one-bladed bone sword that Izuku created is a lot more dense, a lot more tougher. Clearly, the bone's a lot more stronger than his average swords that he makes with his quirk. It's nowhere near unbreakable, but is a lot more tougher than his average bone weapons that he's made so far. The bone that he used for his sword was black. Eventually, the first zombie came walking down the side of the corner of the street. Izuku did not hesitate as he plunged his sword into the skull of the zombie. Then he immediately yanked it out. That's when Izumi came in, chopping off the head off of the body. As the zombie fell to the ground, began to dissolve. Including a severed head. Severed head begins to dissolve as well into that goo. As more zombies begin to head their way, Izuku and Izumi, getting used to teaming up in battles, their coordination has become a lot more seamless. Izuku just had to adjust how he fought around how Izumi fought. It wasn't hard for him to adjust. It took a few more battles to do so. There's a large one incoming. Well, there's a large incoming of stalkers. Big group. What do we do, Izu? Let's head to that school over there. You know, in most movies, in the zombie genre, going to a abandoned, creepy school is never a good idea. We really don't have a choice, unless you want to go fight the large group of stalkers. Be my guest. Damn it, fine. We'll go into the creepy-ass school. I'm gonna say this now. This is a bad idea. Noted. Let's go before they spot us. They managed to sneak past the nearby zombies and stalkers and approach the main gate to the school. The school itself is a rundown high school. It's one building. It's a 2-story building. It's not like a small school, but it's not a humongous school. It's like right in the middle. Izuku and Izumi slid through the bars, the gap between the gate, to to pass the the get into the boundaries of the school. It was big enough. It was a big enough gap for them to slip through their bodies through quite easily. Izuku didn't want to open the main gate just in case the noise attracts any of the nearby zombies that would be able to hear it. The school itself was surrounded by a large wall across the entire boundaries of the school. Schools like this normally would have a second exit. We just need to cut through the building of the school. The group of stalkers wouldn't be able to see us from that angle. Izuku made a bone lockpick as he walked towards the main door to this abandoned high school and began to pick the lock. It only took Izuku a couple of seconds to unlock the main door. They both entered the main lobby area of the high school as the door shut behind him. Izumi was surprised how good he was by locking picks, but she chose not to remark on it. She could clearly make a smart-ass remark, but it's not the time or place for that right now. They remained quiet, just in case the school is infested with zombies. They immediately turn on their flashlights. The school has no power. It was pitch black. They couldn't even see in front of them. So traveling through the school without no source of light would be mostly suicidal. Izuku took point, so Izumi don't have to waste the batteries of her flashlight. She followed close to Izuku as they travel out of the lobby area into a long hallway with lockers on both sides of the hallway, with doors to several classrooms on both sides, basically. Izuku came across some sort of student board on the wall next to a nearby classroom. Had a full map of the entire school. Well, that's just great. It looks like half of this building of the school, or the first floor, is blocked off. The only way to access the other part of the first floor is to go upstairs, then going back downstairs to gain access to that side. Is there no possible way to go around it? No. At least, there is technically a second route, but I highly doubt you would like to take that route. Let's hear it. We can either go through the upstairs, gain access to the other side of the school to gain access to the rest of the first floor to go through the exit, or we could go through the basement of the school. Hell no. Like I said, I knew you wouldn't like it. Now come on. Izuku opened one of the doors to the classrooms and pulled Izumi in, as sounds of footsteps could be heard. As they quietly closed the door, as a small group of zombies began to walk down the hall, Izuku immediately shined the flashlight around the classroom, as he could only see dusty desk and a whiteboard, no windows, a completely empty classroom. It might look empty, but that doesn't mean it's empty. There could be zombies, several zombies laying on the floor. From Izuku's angle of the classroom, he wouldn't be able to notice them. So that's why he was being cautious. Izuku begins to shine his flashlight between each row of desks until he got in the middle of the room. Before he could relax, a bunch of zombies came falling out of the ventilation shaft, falling onto the ground, hitting a couple of the desks, waking up the several zombies that was laying on the ground. As one of them came raising up from one of the rows of the desk that Izuku didn't check yet. As they started to get up one by one. Not track attention. Let's do this quietly. Melee weapons only. Got it, Izu. Izuku placed a flashlight on one of the desks and pulled out one of the flares and lit it up and threw it in the middle of the small group of zombies, giving him more light to work with. While Izuku's flashlight was placed on the table, still on, giving him a more better view of his surroundings, making a wide area to be more visible and in light. Izumi and Izuku move forward with their swords in their hands. Izumi was the first one to strike, piercing one of the zombies in the back of the skull, or the back of the head, while Izuku flanked the closest zombie that was nearest to Izumi by shooting one of them with a bone marble into the skull of the zombie with a flick of his finger, killing them one by one. As both zombies that were killed began to dissolve into black goo. But it didn't take long for the rest of the zombies to catch on of their presence and turn around to begin to attack. Izumi was running on the desk and in the classroom, cutting down zombie after zombie, as more begins to fall from the ventilation shaft. Izuku noticing she was cutting down two zombies at the same time by cutting off their head. Izuku ran a little ahead of Izumi and immediately created a bone shield and lifted it above him. That's when Izumi jumped from the desk to the bone shield, then leaped off it like a springboard, falling down in the middle of the rest of the group of zombies as she begins to swing wildly. And Izuku decided to attack from the outside of the group of zombies. The zombies never really stood a chance, as all the zombies were eventually vanquished as the bodies began to dissolve into black goo. After that was dealt with, they quietly entered the hallway. Izuku peeked his head through the door, looking both ways to make sure the coast was clear. When he saw there was no zombies walking down the hall, down at the end of the hall, they made their move. The hallway was mostly cleared, so let's go. As she motioned Izumi to follow him, as they began to travel down the hallway once again. They followed the hallway until the door leading to the rest of the hallways were locked and sealed shut. That's annoying. What do we do now? We're probably going to have to backtrack a little bit. Saw another hallway we didn't take, but that will probably lead us right to the gym. If we pass through that gym, we should be able to access the rest of the part of the first floor we have access to. They backtracked it and went down a part of the hallway they haven't traveled yet. They had to kill a few zombies on their way. Nothing too difficult. A simple swing of their swords, piercing their brains, easily took care of them. But once they entered the gym, the only thing they could see in the gymnasium is the flashing lights of the disco ball. Only things powered in the entire school. As all the zombies were standing in the gym, looking up by the disco ball, memorized by all the different colors. Holy crap, there's a lot of them. It's a good thing they haven't noticed us. It didn't take them long to begin, as Izuku and Izumi make sure to not to make any noise to immediately alert all of them. But they immediately looked up because they sensed something was wrong, as they saw several stalkers, like the ones they saw earlier, but these ones, instead of their skin being pitch black, they were pure white. Body shape was the same, but they had no eyes, only mouth. Hanging from the ceiling, from the gymnasium, with their claws, hanging upside down like bats. Before Izumi could say anything, Izuku covered her mouth with his hand and guided her, leaned in towards her ear and whispered, "Don't say anything. Take a good look at those white creatures up there. I guess these would be called white stalkers, I guess. Look at them. They have no eyes. I'm guessing they probably hunt through sound. So we're going to have to be very careful. They might have some sort of heat vision, but I'm very uncertain. Just be careful." Izuku flicked one of his bone marbles into one of the zombies, back of the skull, piercing it right through, making the zombie stumble forward, knocking over a few zombies. The moment the zombies fell to the ground, making a noise, one of the white stalkers from the ceiling acted and came flying down, plunging one of his claws into the still living zombies, killing that one instantly. There was no difference that Izuku can identify between the normal stalkers and the white stalkers. The white stalkers have longer claws, teeth, limbs, and they clearly have no eyes. He could easily tell they hunt by sound alone. The clicking noise they make might be used for some sort of sonar, so he doesn't crash through walls. But he has no solid proof on that. He's just assuming how it functions. Izuku doesn't plan to stay in the gym for very longer. So Izuku grabbed Izumi by the hand and led her through the medium-sized gaps between all the zombies, and sneaking past all the white stalkers and zombies. They were too distracted by the disco ball, and the white stalker was too busy attacking any of the zombies that made any noise. And luckily for Izumi, only one of the white stalkers landed from the ceiling. There were dozens hanging up from the ceiling. They eventually got to the other side of the gym and went through the exit, entering a hallway. So they continued to go through the school. Didn't take him long to get to the stairs. They just had to open a door, and that gained them access to the stairs. So they slowly walked up the steps, finally arriving at the second level of the school, or second story of the building of the high school. The moment they got to the second story, They immediately was faced with entire hallway filled with zombies and white stalkers. The zombies would walk around the hallway, as well as the white stalkers. One of the zombies would casually bump into the wall, making noise. The white stalkers immediately eliminated that zombie that made any noise whatsoever. The white stalkers attacks anything that makes a noise, zombie or normal person. Everyone's fair game. So they had to move quietly without making any sound. Izuku was closely observing the white stalker behavior, easily figuring out they do hunt by sound. He's unsure if the clicking noise is any part of it, but he can't really study these white stalkers any further. The white stalkers definitely a lot bigger. It's definitely his aunt's handiwork. She's always been a twisted woman to come up with something like this. And naturally, he approves of the whole thing. He finds it he finds this whole thing entertaining. This, what she calls Cerberus. It has been nothing but entertaining for him. It's not very often he gets to stretch out his legs, as Izuku normally, all of his real action, he does through Grimm. So this is a nice change of pace for him. And his blonde companion seems to be keeping up with him, so he can fully enjoy himself immensely. Each time one of those zombies would brush one each other, the white stalker would cut them down. They used that distraction to move around the remaining zombies and white stalkers. They eventually found the stairs, leading down back to the ground level to get access to the other side of the first floor level of the high school. The moment they reached the other side of the school, on the first floor, the hallway was completely empty. It was quiet, an ominous quiet, that put them both on edge. When they were walking down the hallway, they saw something blocking their path further down below, or further down ahead. They couldn't tell what it was, but it was big. It blocked out the entire hallway. When they got closer, they hid behind one of the vending machines. As they watched a huge fat ass zombie grabbing on one of the smaller zombies and begin to eat it alive. As all they could hear is sounds of blood gushing, bones breaking, muscles tearing. Izuku took his eyes off of the fat zombie into the door right in front of the fat zombie. And he was correct. He sighed to himself. That's the only exit out of the building. And breaking or crashing through one of the windows would most likely draw too much attention to themselves. So making that course of action to be unlikely to be used. He doesn't know if there's any white stalkers on this side of the building. So taking that course of action would be very unwise for him. Luckily, the huge zombie haven't noticed them yet. It was too busy eating his fellow zombies. As Izuku could tell, all of the zombies that are still walking around is giving the bigger one a wide berth. Gross. So, Izu, how'd we get past that disgusting thing over there? That tub of lard? That's a good question. He's big enough to block the entire hallway. That's not even including the extra zombies in the hallway itself. You see all the zombies? They're not getting too close to that big one. Of course not. That fat bastard probably would eat them. Look how aggressively he's eating that zombie. Disgusting tub of lard. Clearly these zombies are not mindless, as I first believe. Look at them. They're keeping their distance from the big one, unfortunately. We're going to have to hit hard. Specifically, I'm going to have to hit hard. Izuku stepped out of the corner of the vending machine and snapped one of his fingers. As the zombies turned their head directly towards his location, even the fat one, as he dropped the pretty much dead zombie as it begins to dissolve in goo. As one of his medium, decent size skull blaster came into existence and opened his mouth as it charged a brief grain of energy for a short time, then unleashed it, engulfing the entire hallway. As a green beam of energy blanket everyone ahead of him, blanking all the zombies that shot out of the mouth of the blaster skull. Izuku immediately dissolved his floating skull. Small pause. The only reason I'm calling them blaster skull because I don't want to keep saying gaster blaster. Technically, that's what they are, but it's a lot more convenient. When the bright flash of green light receded, Izuku threw another flare. When the smoke cleared, all of the zombies were dead, except for the fat one. The fat zombie was extremely damaged, but still moving, alive. Tough little bastard. Izumi immediately rushed forward, leaping in the middle of the air, traveling through the hallway using her explosion, and unleashed a point-blank range explosion out of the both of her palms, completely blowing up the fat zombie's head as the fat body of the zombie flopped down onto the ground and began to dissolve into black goo. Izuku and Izumi waste no time and went through the exit of the other side of the school, bypassing a large group of stalkers. Not that far away, outside of the school. Let's get out of here. I have no doubt that little encounter in the hallway would probably attract more attention. Izuku and his blonde companion moved on, getting as far away from the abandoned school as humanly possible. They followed the street. The presence of the zombies is quite low in this part of the city, and it didn't take him long for his blonde companion to speak up. So what are we looking for? Where would you think this so-called dragon be? That's an excellent question. If I were an oversized zombie dragon, where would I be? The moment those words left his mouth, Izuku and Izumi could see in the distance green fire erupting. Kind of sign, I don't know what it is. Let's go. I think we're getting close. As they continued towards that direction, the closer they got, they noticed burn marks could be seen on the buildings, even on the street itself, as they noticed a half-melted sign Well, we're definitely on the right. We're definitely on the right track. Think that dragon could breathe fire. That's very likely, but that remains to be seen. I'm no expert when it comes to zombie dragons. Let's just presume it can. As they continue to go further and further into the city, to the burnt down part of the city, it's evident the dragon is most likely here somewhere. Noticing all the half melted stop signs and street and buildings. Judging by the burning buildings in the background, yeah, we're definitely on the right track. Let's go kill ourselves a dragon. The closer they got, the hotter it became, like a raging inferno, until they saw their target, crawled around an entire building like a serpent. The dragon immediately noticed Izuku and his companion and let out a powerful roar. Without no hesitation, the zombie dragon unleashed a green blast of fire, erupting from his mouth, blanketing the entire street with green fire. Izuku and Izumi took shelter from the wave of fire, engulfing the entire street. Izuku immediately created a large blaster skull and hid inside his mouth to take shelter with Izumi. The skull closed its mouth. As his skull, bone skull, took a direct hit from the fire, Izuku had his hand on the skull from the inside, with his eyes closed, concentrating, repairing any damage from the constant assault of the dragon's fire. With a single wave of his hand, the skull begins to dissipate into bone particles. The dragon, noticing its prey still breathing, begins to shoot green fireballs out of his mouth. Izuku and Izumi took invasive actions. When one of the fireballs got too close for comfort, heading directly towards Izuku, she unleashed one of her explosions, creating a chain reaction, as both fireball and explosion erupted in a larger explosion, pushing Izuku and Izumi backwards in a skid. Izuku rushed forward, creating a bone shield. As the incoming green fireballs was fast approaching, he slammed the shield against one of the fireballs and redirected right back at the dragon, making direct contact onto his chest. As a screech of pain emanate from the dragon's mouth, from his vocal cords. The dragon immediately left off the building and took flight and began to circle in the sky right above Izuku and Izumi. The dragon immediately unleashed a barrage of his green fireballs, raining down upon the city, all around Izuku and his blonde companion. Izuku looked up in the sky, watching the dragon shoot out another barrage of green fireballs, raining down upon them. Izuku snapped his fingers as a small army of his blaster skulls appeared in the midst of the barrage, and they all unleashed their green beams of energy as green fireballs and green beams of energy begin to collide with each other. He's currently summoning his medium-sized skulls. He doesn't have to create any of the bigger ones, versions of his blaster skulls. Too many of those would tire him out completely, leaving him completely defenseless as the medium-sized blaster skulls open their mouths and shoot out beams of energy. Taking a hit off of his stamina, he felt the drain from each blast was unleashed. Izuku stood firm, showing no signs of weakness. Even in the midst of pure chaos, he stood there firm, with his hands behind his back, as one of his floating skulls were created and joined the battle by unleashing its beam of energy, cutting through the fireballs and flying directly towards the dragon. The dragon, noticing the danger, begins to fly around the multiple green beams of energy. The dragon might be a zombie dragon, but his wings were mostly intact, and most of the skin hasn't rotted away yet. Despite the mighty dragon being a zombie, it moves with terrifying grace around the multiple beams of energy, and it seems to have some form of intelligence, how it moves, how it attacks. And when one of the beams got too close, with a single swipe of his tail, redirecting the beam away into the city, directly towards Izuku's direction. Izuku watched one of his beams get directed right towards him, barely missing his face, as it flew past him and heading to a building right behind Izuku. Immediately that building exploded in a green explosion of pure energy. While Izuku didn't even flinch, not even once, he didn't move from his position. He still has his hands behind his back. He narrowed his eyes at the flying creature in the sky. The dragon increased its attitude, then flew higher, then immediately dove downwards. The moment it got close to the ground, it unleashed a blanket of fire onto the street. From the fire, zombies began to burst out of the ground. Word of fire struck. As the dragon landed on the top of the building, glaring down at his prey like a perch. Izumi didn't do much, Izumi couldn't do much while the dragon was in the sky. She could possibly use her quirk to fly around, but that would be suicide. So she picked her battle. Now that's no longer an issue. The dragon is grounded now, and there's plenty of zombies to blast. So she didn't have to ask for any permission. She bolted forward, blasting zombie after zombie with explosions. Izuku walked past the zombies nonchalantly. When the zombies tried to lunge onto Izuku, one of his blaster skulls eradicated it without him even looking behind him. His main focus was on the dragon perching on one of the buildings like an alpha predator. Izuku couldn't help to get a vicious grin on his face. Izuku has always enjoyed the thrill of battle, and judging by the small burns on his hands and arms, that the safety measures are not functional at this current time. That means there is a chance of death, and the chance of death is quite high, and that only makes him grin even further. The zombie dragon did not wait for any invitation. It immediately shot green fireballs at Izuku. Izuku begins to dodge and weave around all of the fireballs, easily dodging the dragon's attack, while the dragon is still on his perch. The dragon slowly climbed down the building. As his front and bottom claws finally touched the ground, finally made contact with the burnt street, walking slowly towards its prey. Zuko calmly walked towards the dragon, while several more of his skull blasters materialized, floating all around him, following Izuku with each step he took. He created another bone sword in his hand. He lost the previous one he made earlier by all the excitement from all the dragon, from the fireballs that the dragon unleashed upon them. Izuku pointed his bone weapon at the dragon. Time to die permanently, you oversized gecko. And that's where we're going to stop it for now. I'll catch you guys in the next part.